Hello, my name is Brant Hunt, and my channel is Discerning What is True. Today is the fourth day of September 2023, and I'm going to be reading from this particular book here by Phil Langdon called Ascension. This book was written a few years back. The chapter I'm going to be reading out of chapter 5 is the Temple of the Ark, ARK. And so hope everyone's having a good day, and hope that this is for those who have ears to hear and hearts to see. Most Christian churches, that is, represent the human on the cross of crucifixion when seen from above, just as most ancient temples were built to represent the proportions and dimensions of the human being, such as the Temple of Solomon. In fact, when you first enter a church and look across to the opposite wall, we will see the crucified divine child, that is the Lamb of God, just as we see the cloud in the near distance when we encounter it. This scenario mimics the moment of seeing the light in the underworld. Churches are always accompanied by a tower to symbolize the union of male and female, a sexual allegory that refers to the deeper union of the human and God's spirit. The church hall is a womb-like environment whose entrance is usually depicted as a Vesica Piscis shape, so famous in the sacred geometry. This form denotes the idealized female sexual organ as an entrance into the great womb, as well as a metaphoric counterpart in terms of the union of two circles from which divine birth comes. However, sexual union is merely a natural physical reference to the divine union, since the male phallus in its sexual content can be compared to the human body that ejaculates soul from the womb of the brain. The church tower then is the body as phallus, with a cross on top as a pineal light, or demerge. Most church towers have 4 pillars or steeples at each corner around a single steeple in the middle. The arrangement matches the Hindu and Egyptian concept of 4 around 1 that is higher in the middle. And notice that the Angkor Wat Temple is the same way in Cambodia. The same thing with not quite the same thing, but the pyramids with each corner, you see, and then the very top. Since soul ejaculation occurs in the brain, the inside of a church represents the womb of the brain, with its twin lobes depicted by the seating arrangement on the left and right sides of the central aisle. The altar, known as the Holy of Holies, takes the position of the pineal gland as the altar of sacrifice where the lamb is slain, and shown as such on the wall behind the altar as the Lamb of God crucified. Architecturally, the dome of the church is always directly above the altar, denoting the inside of the head or interdome of the skull as it rises like bread in the firmament, confirming its association with the internal pineal event at the lofty mountaintop to which you fly. Hence, a Christian church represents divine union through sexual and mental architectural allegory. Remember that bread, we have the illustration from Phil talking about bread with the way that we look at the flat plane of the earth, and then we see the sun rise, and then we get to see the sun being at its top, at its othermost in the sky, what we call noon, and then it gets back to the point simply as the sunset. Well, if you do that, that looks almost like a loaf of bread. And actually, Bethlehem is the word meaning bread. This same architecture concept can be found in Egypt, according to the book The Temple of the Man by the author R.A. Swallower de Lubitz, that's Lubitz. The growth of an idealized human being is precisely encoded into the temple at Luxor, that's Luxor, with the use of the golden section, the same proportion found throughout the natural world. And let me show you that here. This is going to be kind of a hard picture to see, but it's at the bottom here. But on one side, you see how on the left-hand side is the Luxor temple, but it's all in black, so it's going to be really hard to see here. Let's continue on. The Luxor temple is not merely a representation of the mineral-based skeleton structure of a human in stone, but contains the allegory reference to the function of the various organs and glands of the body in its various statues and wall carvings. As with all human temples, the Holy of Holies takes the position associated with the pineal center of the brain. Christianity then seems to owe its architectural origins to the ancient world before it, including the Hindu tradition. And you'll see this. See if I can make this easy for you to see here. With the Hindu illustration again, with what we call the body laying down, the head at the very pillar of the top part of the temple. Hope you can see this. It is from the Hindu and Indus Valley tradition that yoga is still practiced and taught today, that can bring health and vitality to your physical body, so life can be enjoyed. Yoga is not only a healthy system, it can awaken the dormant energy in the spine known as Kundalini and bring liberation to the individual through its meditational practices. In the West, alchemy became the alternate to Christianity and gained an evil name in the process, being associated with the occult, which occult simply means hidden or mystery. Alchemy has always been a subject to contention. On one hand, it is said to be the beginning of modern chemistry. On the other, it is the start of modern psychology. Alchemy is by standard definition associated with chemistry only, since it is the attempt to transmute base metals into gold by using a key or catalyst called the philosophical or philosopher's stone. In truth, the stone is the pineal light cloud that signifies the birth of a true philosopher or a god. It turns everything into gold and true understanding. So it's not about the physical, but it's about understanding here. Another explanation suggests that the process of alchemy was focused on creating elixir from gold known as ORME, or monoatomic gold and metals that a person could consume to become immortal, suggesting you can cheat death. This concept has fueled the contention that alchemy is inherently evil, dark art. In this sense, it is seen as the attempt to cheat the system that exists in a world created by God. It's like turning your back on God, you see, effectively, and that it's obviously a very bad idea if you consider God to be the root and the culmination of your own existence. Of course, it is further misinterpretation from the suspicion that comes with not knowing things as they truly are. Ornament is a consumable liquid and is good for you. As far as reports go, it was certainly considered a beneficial elixir by royalty in the past. It is the symbolism of alchemy that seems to be the most important aspect, though, and presents us with the concept of marriage, involving the unification of the split psychic duality of any person, that is male or female. It is the duality of the psychic itself that associates with the concept of evil, giving rise to what Jung, his psychology, would call the shadow self. The shadow is simply whatever is unknown in the mind, as anything unknown is said to be a shadowy area where things are unclear. Everything you have swept under the carpet, that is, you ignore it. If there is your shadow self. To combine the male and female within, the duality of total reality must be reconciled and understood as two aspects of one whole, like yin and yang. And I'll show you something here at the bottom of this thing here. You have what they call primo material And then I'm going to call one side is called celestial salt, and the other side is called celestial niter. This is here. Here it is at the top, bottom here, the page here in the book. And then you have the four elements: earth, water, air, and fire. And then you have later it comes down to salt, with mercury being in the middle, and then sulfur on the right-hand side. Continue. In this diagram, we can see that the yin-yang symbol at the top in unification from which two dual aspects exist: dub, fixed, and volatile. Okay, so you have these at the top. Like stillness and motion associated with spirit and energy in a foundational condition, pistis sophia. From this relationship comes the four elements of earth, water, air, and fire as material conditions, and the three aspects of being: dub, sulfur, mercury, and salt. The 3/4 pattern is prevalent in the physical psyche as well as the metaphor. The sun, which has 3 stations in the day, as the Egyptian Kripri, Ra, Atom, and 4 points in a year of summer, winter solstice, spring, and autumn equinoxes. Mercury is associated with the mind, intellect, or mentality, and its color is yellow, like the sun as the human psyche. We have this with a famous, what I would call a piece of alchemy also. I'm sure you've seen this picture right here, revealing that. The aspect of sulfur and salt are red and blue, respectively. Red relates to the heart and emotions in association with red blood, itself associated with passion. Blue is the physical issue of the body senses, which contains about 75% water, and water is naturally blue. These 3 identifications are precisely what we hear about in the Bhagavad Gita when Krishna explains the nature of the 3 gunas, Gunas, as aspect of Shakti, being energy / matter, also known as Prakriti. My womb is Prakriti, is that I plant the seed. Thus all created things are born, everything born, Arjuna, coming from the womb of Prakriti. And I am the seed-giving father. It is the 3 gunas born of Prakriti, that is Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas, that bind the immortal self to the body. Sattva is spelled S-A-T-T-V-A, is pure, luminous, and free from sorrow. Binds us with attachment to happiness and wisdom. The fruit of good deeds is pure and sabat. Rajas is passion, arising from selfish desire and attachment. These bind the self with compulsive actions. The fruit of Rajas is suffering. Tamas, born of ignorance, dilutes all creatures through heedlessness, indolence, and sleep. Tamas, distortion, our understanding, binds us to delusion. The fruit of Tamas is ignorance and insensitivity. So what he's showing here is through these particular words are what we call the makeup of the body and also of human beings. One is being simply is that most are basically asleep. They're ignorant and have no idea what's going on. They're born in what I would call families that have not really moved upward in knowledge and wisdom, and they tend to be what you call ignorant of what's really going on around them in all areas. Another one is simply is Rajas, is passion, meaning simply is that comes from selfish desires and attachment. And this is also binds the self with the compulsion of that. In other words, it's the fruit of going after this, wanting passion all the time, and selfish desire that keeps these people in what we call in suffering, because they're looking for something that is not actually healing them. It is something that actually, when I say healing, I mean simply is that they're suffering from this. this whole attachment to this particular selfish attitude of I want this, almost as though, as a child saying, this is mine, 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 a toy they hold on to. This is mine. I don't want you to have it. As though that's, will, their desire and everything is not willing to be unselfish. They're giving. They hold on to that and they suffer because of that type of attitude. And the first one at the very top simply is talking about purity, and it's free from sorrow. It's not attached to attachments at all. It binds us with attachment to happiness and wisdom, and these are the roots of good deeds and pure. You see, they demonstrate something from someone who's realizes this simply as I want the top of the cream, the better of it. It doesn't mean what it is today is like I'm going to take care of myself. No, that's not what it's about. They understand wisdom and purity as though it's far more advantageous than others, because others do not see it as valuable. Let's continue on from Sattva, S-A-T-T-V-A, comes understanding. From Rajas becomes greed, but the outcome of tamas is confusion, infatuation, and ignorance. Those who live in Sattva, S-O-T-T-V-A, go upwards. Those in Rajas remain where they are, but those immersed in tamas sink downward. Interesting, isn't it? The perspective is simply as the very top is the one who actually continues to go upward. Okay, while the one in Rajas remains where they are and never move any further. They don't move up. They don't progress. And the sad thing about the lower part, tamas, they go, instead of actually moving, they don't even stay stationary. They go further down. They become weaker. The wise see clearly that all actions is the work of the gunas, knowing that which is above the gunas. They enter into union with me, going beyond the three gunas which form the body. They leave behind the cycle of birth and death, discrepancy and sorrow, and attain to immortality. And this is from the Bhagavad Gita. I'm saying it wrong. And, sorry about that. According to the gunas, yellow is sattva, red is passion, is rajas, and blue, the physical, is tamas. So these are the colors represent these things, you see. When these colors are combined, as if to unify these qualities, they produce the three major colors worn by Catholic priests over their black and white suits, namely green, purple, and orange. Interesting. So the symbols of these, even priests, are revealing some truth to those if they have the awareness of seeing that, but most are not aware. Traditionally, these colors relate to certain times of the year when festivals and commemorations take place in the Christian calendar. However, alchemy exists throughout the Christian wardrobe, right down to the black and white suits. The black suit of a priest, worn under the green, purple, and orange vestments, has a small white collar in the position of the throat, marking the place that projects the word of God, truth, in association with the vocal cords. The white collar is a square, the square circle of a sacred geometry, since the square gains measure and allows the true center to be found. The pitch black underworld is represented by the black suit worn around it, as if the white square is the pineal light or the merge. And I'll show you that here. Kind of an illustration of that as Philip tries to explain these things is what he's gone through Ascension. You see the collar there, right there where the throat is. Interesting. The colors naturally associated with a literal event of divine union then are black and white. Symbolically, red becomes the third color, making a trio or trinity of colors, the very same colors of the famous chemical wedding. The blackness of the infinite void, the whiteness of the cloud of light, and the redness of the symbolic blood. Now the Lamb is slain. These are known in alchemy as nigredo, Nigredo, albedo, albedo, and rubedo, rubedo, or black, white, and red. Many Renaissance paintings portray these colors to highlight the illumination, as in this painting by Gerald von Holst from 1620 called The Childhood of Christ. Again, you'll see this in the colors here. It's a black background, and you'll see the colors here of what we call red, black, and white. You'll see that with the child. You'll see with the father figure also in this. So these people, did they know this? Did they know anything about this? They possibly do that, but probably what Phyllis said is that a lot of them, maybe one or two, really did know something, but the rest copy that since it was somewhat popular at that time. That's his perspective on that. So I just thought I'd share that with you. Notice also the Pope and his cardinals at the Vatican wear red and white, symbolically suggesting they have all slain their lambs, as if it's normal for the reality of these colors to be actualized at the Vatican. The fact that they are alchemy in nature and tradition is rejected by the Christian religion in general, though. Not only is alchemy rejected by the Christian faith at the Vatican, but also the satanic concept associated with the Demiurge. This is very strange indeed, since the Demiurge is the savior of mankind, as confirmed by the words of Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita, known as Brahman in the Hindu concept. The Demiurge is the severity of the truth, in that it cannot change to suit anyone's personal belief system or misunderstanding. It is thus known as the devil, because the truth in its greatest severity is indifferent to our desires. So you see how this has been pushed down, so to speak. People don't want to hear this type of information, that they don't want to hear the devil, but the devil and Jesus, if you want to look at it, are part of the duality also, you see. So it's to get you to, again, ask questions. Why is that? You see. The duality in every individual psyche is symbolized in alchemy as a red king and a white queen. As much as the literal marriage between the human and God's spirit, whose sexual union produces progeny as a divine child of light itself, which is red symbolically and white literally. The two sides are the sun and the moon, allegorically as the red king who wears a belt of gold like the sun at the heart of the human body, and the white queen who is white like this moon, or the white light of the head. They are Shiva and Shakti, yin and yang, spiritually consciousness and energy matter, the keys to heaven and the psychic dual brain loads. Duality unified, divine union. So this is how this works. People are, they speak of duality being bad, but duality is not bad. Duality is a way of you trying to figure out basically, like in math, the whole idea of like 4 + 2 equals, or whatever, equals a certain number. Okay. But this is what it's trying to say simply, is that 2 is unified. So 2 becomes 1. Okay. So it's 2 - 1 = 1. You become divine union. So you bring these together, so to speak. But what happens simply is we're taught today to fight against this type of perspective. And we don't realize, even in our own lives, when people do ugly things to us or hurt us or do something that just basically cause harm to us, actually is what I would call a way of making you see your own self, you see. In other words, it reveals in your own spirit what others do to you. And that it gets you to, quote unquote, if you're available or ready, aware, you then become aware that simply is, I'm no better than he is. And I need to rectify the situation, you see. So it's a way of getting your attention. The first state, the blackening, is about recognizing and integrating the shadow aspect of the psyche, becoming whole, the first key to heaven. The second part, the whitening, is about integrating dual opposites, the marriage between the male and female, spirit and energy, that is, equals the sacred key to heaven. Finally, the third part, the reddening, produces the transcendent philosophical goal, which is illumination. Symbolically, the sun and moon must join in eclipse to darken the sky in union and turn the sun into a diamond ring for marriage. Hence, the eclipse of the sun in the natural world can also represent the moment of divine union and intermarriage between the individual and complete true self. The union is symbolized by the dove, an alchemy lore, a common symbol for the Holy Spirit in Christianity that merges with you as your own divine marriage. The alchemy allegory is like a good drama whose first act shows the introduction of the characters involved. This would be associated with the color black. The second act then puts them through what we call difficulty with tests or challenges in them by putting them into a situation they must get themselves out of. This is all done for a purpose. Even your life is this way. You see, is what I'm trying to demonstrate here. And let's see. Now the color is white as a maximum contrast to the initial black when the light is seen. Finally, in the third act, all is resolved with understanding, and the shadows are vanquished in the light of truth. The psychic is whole in union with God. The lamb is slain and bleeds red everywhere. This is the very story of life for every person when they complete the tree of life. Every story of divine union involves a equal trend or opposite to represent the evil of psychic duality. For Jesus it is Judas. For Arthur it is Mordor. For Robin Hood it is the Sheriff of Nottingham. For Luke Skywalker is Star Wars is Darth Vader, who is his own father. The son who overtakes his father in symbolism for the new diverge regenerates into the individual that becomes the new ruler. Horus takes over from Ra to become Ra Horokoti, and Marduk overcomes King Gu to become ruler. Just as spirit consciousness alone is unknown to itself without contrast, so our hero does not know they are a hero without the experiences that show them their own true nature as such. As the evil twin in all dramatic stories shows little remorse for their actions, so the physical world seems evil and callous in its uncaring disrespect of the individual wishes. A tree will not bend down and pat you on the back because you saved the creature from certain death at the hands of a predator. Physical reality challenges each one of us to see the truth as it is by never changing, since it must be set in stone or it would have no value whatsoever. Hence, the nature of uncaring world turns from one of a seeming evil to one that is good for you in the end, because it is your firm teacher. You see? Do you see what's going on around you? Are you aware of that, even in the age that we're in? A simple tree can teach you about wider reality. Imagine the galaxy as a squash tree with branches that reach out, becoming solar system that generates self-reflexive creatures that can generate singular nature by interrationale. The human psyche generates the singular state at the pinnacle of creation thanks to God. Herein lies the secret to opening the third eye. The condition generates the cosmos of galaxies that gave birth to the creature that generate its singular source with God. If the tree of life can be applied to the cosmos as much as a galaxy, it can be applied to the human psyche, as the famous psychologist Carl Jung's proposed. This helps us grasp a portion of the reasoning applied to Yagaba as a egotistic character. His story, these are in the Bible, folks, they're all stories, they're myths. They're not supposed to be taken literally. We've all been taught we should take them literally by our churches and our priests and preachers. His story reflects the story of a human ego and psyche, since it is born from it and gives birth to it. We find the same issue in the mythical stories of Jason and the Argonauts, who sails to the ends of the earth to find the golden fleece of a ram, as in the story of Aladdin and the lamp. Aladdin goes down into a cave to find the lamp, as an allegory for entering the underworld. When he finds it, he only needs to rub it 3 times to recognize thrice great God, or a genie to appear and grant his wishes, since it is the demurge that appears in the abyss to the individual. We may take the genie to be the demurge and the lamp as the cosmos. Classical stories passed down through generations are always essential to the same. One such concerns the dramatic story of a global flood. Every culture has a flood myth. Seems, but are they really talking about an actual flood of water on earth in a catastrophe situation? In the Gnostic Gospels by Elaine Pagels, we are told they hid in a particular place, not only Noah, but also many other people from the unshakable race. They entered that place and hid in a bright cloud. Noah's Ark, according to Gnostic scholar Elaine Pagels, who is a professor of religion at Princeton University, was not a real boat. This makes sense if the ark refers to the human body as a repository or microcosmic container of the cosmos. As such, the great pineal boat of light can be associated with a boat at the top of God's mountain, the Noah's Ark on Mount Ararat, just as the cosmic egg may be taken to be the round boat of Noah that he stands in. Consider the human being in 2 trees of life together in union with the great tree of the galaxy. The ark is likened to every level of the tree in its ability to contain life as the body and the life of the head. The cosmos is the container of galaxies, which are the containers of the solar system. The earth contains life as the ocean of creatures that become human containers of nature's totality, with the ability to think critically. A human can find the truth itself and generate the pineal ark, leaving it at the top of the mountain within the human body, the boat that carries Noah and his treasures of nature's natural world. And we can see this in these pictures here. At the very top is the great flood, the primeval ocean, Noah, the mountain. You see that. We also see it also in the stars. We have the mountain, and then you have the ark and the mount of creation. I hope you can see this. It's really sad, that dark background, but that's how it's printed. Noah's constants are, remember now, let's go back to the Hebrew. The constants are the ones that actually represent something. The vowels do not have a meaning, but if you know what I'm saying. So Noah's constants are NH. The letter N is Nu, meaning fish or prince. Both mean the same thing in terms of the pineal event, since you find yourself afloat to the bottomless ocean as you are a fish, the ocean of which has withdrawn into the demerge as its perfection, leaving a empty, vacuous condition. Let's see if I can show you something real quick here. Yeah. We also know, but let me finish this up and then we'll go into this. As a prince, you become a prince of peace from the deepest understanding the experience of meeting God gives you, just before you become a fisher king of righteousness. The letter H means to look or behold. Hence, NH can be read in several ways, but only one way as divine union. Fish beholds, prince beholds, or consciousness beholds. All mean the same thing symbolically in the single event. Normally, the name Noah means rest. However, when you consider that rest refers to the kind of peace offered in the Bible by God, it makes sense that Noah would be found at the top of the mountain where total rest can be found. Talking about up here, up in your head. Now the truth itself, so to speak, it is in this place. This is rest, when you find out that all is well with the divine and you are liberated from ignorance. The deepest understanding brings the deepest peace. So what he's talking about is the mountain is up here. Okay. And the struggles that we have is up here. Okay. This is why we have the struggles we have with worries, or we're not able, we worry about things. We worry about the next day. We worry about money. We worry about, am I, when I'm sick, or I'm getting older, am I going to die? When am I going to die? Those type of things. Those are worries. And this is all caused up here. And when you're looking for is rest, because your mind is always trying to solve these problems. You see, they're always going on back and forth. And you don't have rest. You don't. These are metaphors. These are stories to share what is really deeper down. And it says here, this is rest when you find out that all is well with the divine and you are liberated from the ignorance which is all around us, everywhere around us today. And the deepest understanding brings the deepest peace. After all, we're seeking to be at peace with ourselves, with our own head up here. The first chapter of the book of Noah itself confirms that the character written as Noah is most likely, in fact, the light of the head, since he states, "And after some days, my son Methuselah took a wife for his son Lamech, and she became pregnant by him and bore a son. And his body was white as snow and red as the blooming of a rose. And the hair of his head and his long locks were white as wool, and his eyes beautiful. And when he opened his eyes, he lighted up the whole house like the sun, and the whole house was very bright." What do you think they're talking about here? And his body was white as snow and red. This is all occurring up here when you have what we call the Ascension, when your third eye is open. And his eyes beautiful. And when he opened his eyes, meaning his real eye, not his eye, his pineal, your third eye, he lighted up the whole house like the sun, and the whole house was very bright. That is referring to what occurs in Ascension with inside your head, with the pineal gland. When your third eye opens, your pineal gland. And thereupon he arose in the hands of the midwife, opening his mouth, and conversed with the Lord of righteousness. And his father Lamech was afraid of him, and fled, and came to his father Methuselah. And he said unto him, I have begotten a strange son, diverse from and unlike man, and resembling the sons of the gods of heaven. And his nature is different, and he is not like us. And his eyes are as the rays of the sun, and his countenance is glorious. This is from the book of Noah. Do you see what this guy's doing? This is amazing. It's a tale. It's a story. It's right there, revealing what is going on. It's been hidden. This has been hidden from all of humanity for thousands of years. I have begotten a strange son. He's completely, what is going on? But it's a story. He's diverse from and unlike a man. He's not a man, you see. And he resembling the sons of the gods of heaven, the God of heaven. And his nature is completely different than us. He's completely different. And his eyes are as the rays of the sun, and his countenance is glorious. So you see, this whole story here is to reveal the hidden part that we have been kept from. We've been kept away from all this. All we look at is literally, and it's not literal. It's not meant to be literal. It never was. But when you have blind men who teach this stuff, they choose to do this because that's all they know by their seminaries or whatever they're taught at, and they assume this is true. But it's not literal. According to this passage, Noah's body is white and red. That's also speaking of simply something very deep here, is to do with the Lamb. He conversed, so it's not even a real person, you see. He conversed with the Lord of righteousness. He was different, and his countenance was glorious. This is a direct description of the pineal gland of light, whose body is white as snow, symbolically red with lamb's blood, is different from the body, and whose light is glorious countenance. The pineal gland cloud is described in terms of a rose in Western tradition, as opposed to the lotus from the Indus Valley and Egyptian traditions. So it's all, this is all, again, revealing something hidden. It's hidden in plain sight. That's what one said. I remember that that when Phil talked to me, I guess it was, or maybe it was one of the videos that I watched, maybe that's what I should say, that, he went to Rome and he went to the Vatican and he was seeking to find, he's wanted to find out simply is that if there was, what it was like, was it, does it have any kind of spiritual power here or something of that nature? Does it affect me? Does it, and he said, no, it's nothing there. There's nothing there. Nothing there. Nothing. He felt nothing there at all. You notice that the rose is talked about, some ways here is to deal with what I call the Rosicrucians, who are also trying to spread truth, but in reality, I don't think they were showing the whole truth at all. But the Bible is the key from all this, you see. But you've got to read it in a different way. Noah was the 10th antediluvian, so-called pre-flood patriarch, which is a reference to the 10 points on the complete tree of life again. Just as the 10 Commandments represent when the flood reaches its pinnacle in Genesis 5:32. The Kabbalist's interpretation gives us the truth yet again. After Noah was 500 years old, he became the father of Shem, and Ham, and Jacob helped. This has been NIV. And again, the number 500 is significant here. In Kabbalah, as well as having inherited meaning, Hebrew letters also have numerical values associated with them. The first group of 9 letters have unit values from 1 to 9. The next group have values that come in tens from tens to 90. And the last group are hundreds from 1 to 400. Hence, 500 is the equivalent of a new tree of life starting to grow from the completion of the first, just as the white crown of Egypt shows a new sprout from its top. This means that Noah's sons are the 3 columns, or pillars, of the completed tree of life. Famously, the animal kingdom in its supposedly entirety is taken into the ark, 2 by 2, as if they can reproduce after the flood has subsided and repopulate the globe with their species. However, the human being and its combination of all the kingdoms that come before it, including the animal kingdom, and thus a representation of all the kingdoms at once, physical reality certainly seems grouped into kingdoms. The atomic kingdom, based on duality of changes from energy, gives rise to the mental kingdom. Mineral kingdom, which itself underlies the vegetable kingdom. And above the vegetable is the animal kingdom, whose pinnacle is the human being, the only creature with the faculty of rationale that leads to understanding. The human then is the pinnacle of creation in this regard. The famous logician and engineer Arthur Young spent his later life developing a coherent theory involving the concept that the universe is self-reflexive. It involves the same concept of kingdoms and logical order, finishing with the human being. His version shows a descent to the mineral level before rising again to the same height as the original thing that started the process, as if to equate the human with the root of all things. When we compare the scheme of kingdoms with clay that makes diamonds, we find exact correspondence between them. I'm going to show this right quick to you. So you have the monad over here on the right-hand side here, energetic, atomic, mineral. So it goes down to the lowest point being at the mineral, and then it goes right back up with the vegetable, animal, and heaven, which is here. And that's what you're about. This is what this is all about, folks. Heaven. We can reconstruct the 7 days of creation from the original perfect God spirit known as pleroma, Pleroma, expressed through the principle of monad, down through creation from the first light and back up into singular nature again via the womb of the Pisces mother and the underworld, where the divine child is born, finding rest at the top of the mountain. In so doing, we discover the creation itself is a triad of singular issues. God is thrice great. The great work culminates with the creator that comes from the brain of a human being, who themselves do the great work within to attain it. Let's see if I can show you this thing here. Again, the monad, oneness, Father, God. And you have what you call, it divides, and it becomes 2 points in a line. Divine Mother, Divine Child, the Alpha and the Omega. Alpha is the clay, and the Omega is the diamond. Then you have what you call duality. So you have monad, the seed, the clay, the bricks, the pyramid, the capstone, and the diamond at the top. According to the Gnostic texts, the great goddess Pistis is the cosmos in the abyss, the first aeon from God as a womb in which continuous grows the alien universes of galaxies, stars, planets, creatures, and brains from her waters or energy. She's referred to in a spiritual personal sense in the non-Hammadi scroll, since there are internal psychological and external physical aspects to total physical reality, as well as the opposite. Singular spirituality, reality above the reality of the physical, all which are incorporated and compounded into the texts. Sophia is also the light as wisdom. We are the pistis who become Sophia, separate from God, seeking and finding gnosis of the true self. Yeah, these black holes, as Phil is reported. Now, Phil naturally is a scientist. That's his background. That's his major in college, as well as I recollect, and also mathematics. He pursued these things to find out the truth. These dark holes, such and such, are the beginning of another galaxy, planets, all that. That's what this is about. It's a process. He goes into it. It's not here, but I'm saying he goes into this. But this, I just want to explain that's what it's about. Let's see where I was at here. Got off a little tangent. If we take a boat from one shore to another, we have faith that the boat will get us there. It is not blind faith. That would see a person jumping off a cliff to prove they can fly, only to find they didn't understand the physics of gravity as they crash into the ground. Blind faith gets us nowhere. True faith is based in knowledge of process over time. The result of this faith, this is wisdom, which wisdom is Sophia. In Revelations 1:12, we find further confirmation of the seven kingdoms in association with the light as creator and a galactic product. I turned around to see the voice that was speaking to me. And when I turned, I saw seven golden lampstands. And among those lampstands was someone like a son of man, dressed in a robe, reaching down to his feet, and with a golden sash around his chest. The hair on his head was white as wool. These are stories, folks. They're not reality. As white as snow, and his eyes were like blazing fire. His feet were like bronze glowing in a furnace, and his voice was like the sound of rushing waters. In his right hand he held seven stars, and coming out of the mouth was a sharp double-edged sword. His face was like the sun shining in its brilliance. When I saw him, I fell at his feet as though I was dead. Then he placed his right hand on me and said, "Do not be afraid. I am the first and the last. I am the living one. I was dead, and now look, I am alive forever and ever, and I hold the keys of death and Hades. Write, therefore, what you have seen, what is now, what will take place later. The mystery of the seven stars that you saw in my right hand and the seven golden lampstands is this. The seven stars are the angels of the seven churches, and the seven lampstands are the seven churches." Again, it's not exactly churches here. These are, again, revealing deeper insights. Let's see, here we go with this. I'm going to show this here. Again, this is from Pleiades at the top here. Hyades, Orion, and Sirius, the dog star. In this opening portion from the book of Revelation, we hear about the Son of Man, the first and last, where hair is white as snow. These are issues concerning the Demerge as the constellation Orion with the seven stars at his right hand, the seven sisters, Pleiades cluster, that is. The seven angels and churches are the seven great issues concerning the creation cycle, held in the hand of a giant God who has completed the creation and is the embodiment of Brahman. The churches are seven lampstands, you see, or natural kingdoms represented by the Menanar, from dimensionless monad through polarization, which is called duality, to the human level and singular recreation. The lamp in the middle lights the Menar, since it is the light of illumination that completes all the kingdoms. The seven angels are the chakras. Then they represent the microcosm of the macrocosm cycle. Orion and Pleiades are stellar reference to illumination, that is the cloud and creation respectively. Revelations also points to the pineal light as the Son of Man and the root of David. Notice the name David starts and ends with the fourth letter in the alphabet, D, being Dalet, D-A-L-E-T, which is in Hebrew, with the constant V, vowel, V-A-V, which means pin or spine to reconnect. Hence, D-V-D as the constant of David may be taken as the three columns of the completed tree of life. Again, we'll show you this part of the seven churches, the kingdoms. The monal, the duality, the atomic, the mineral, the vegetable, animal, and human. And then the seven angels of the chakras. You have kingdoms, you have chakras. You see? In Revelation 22:16, it further states that I am the root and offspring son of David, the bright and morning star. This simple phrase confirms the revelatorial identification of the Son of God as the root and product of the tree of life, David, the Alpha and the Omega. The pineal light is creator and final product known as Lucifer. the bright and morning star. This makes perfect sense when we consider that Bethlehem, house of bread, is David's city. In Colossians 1:16, it says of the Son of God, the Son is the image of the invisible God, the firstborn over all creation. In brackets, creator. For by him all things were created that are in heaven and that are on earth, visible and invisible, whether thrones or dominions or principalities or powers, all things were created through him and for him. When we look at the meaning of the term Messiah, or as the Anointed One, it is plain to see that the title applies to anyone who completes the tree of life. Since it is chrism oil, CHRISM, from the Kundalini process that allows the light to be produced in the head. In other words, you have to have some way of burning a light, a candle. You have to have some type of oil or some type of product that allows, once it starts, to continue to burn. After the flood of the Spirit within, it is said by modern Jews that the Messiah will rebuild the temple of Jerusalem when it comes. This applies to anyone who becomes a Messiah at any point in time. The word Jerusalem means abode of peace, ABODE, a peace, which, as we find in John 2:19, confirms that the temple in question is not a physical location on earth, but is the body. It is your body. Destroy the temple and I will raise it again in 3 days, they reply. It has taken 46 years to build the temple, and you're going to raise it in 3 days. The temple he has spoken of was his body. You see? They were talking about an outward manifestation, something created, that is, a temple by man, and he's talking about with himself. He's talking about the ascension. Moreover, in Revelation 21:22, it says, I did not see a temple in the city, because the Lord God Almighty and the Lamb are its temple. The city does not need the sun or the moon to shine on it, for the glory of God gives its light, and the Lamb is its lamp. In Revelation 17:9, we find a very tricky and convoluted passage for only the wise. This calls for a mind with wisdom. The 7 heads are 7 hills on which the woman sits. There are also 7 kings. 5 have fallen. 1 is, the other has not yet come. But when he does come, he must remain for only a little while. The beast who once was and now is not is a 8th king. He belongs to the 7 and is going to his destruction. This passage is referring to the beast of Revelations having 7 heads, that is kingdoms, and 10 horns, Sephiroth. These 7 are yet again the kingdoms of creation that have come from the female cosmos. It is she who is her own child also, as the perfection of her waters. Hence, it is a woman who sits on the kingdoms, which are as 7 kings. The following 5 refer to the 5-stage process manifesting creation, from clay to diamond or energy to light, all of which are associated with the physical cosmos and creator only, falling below dimensionless perfection. The bestiality or falling away from spirit as such, the one that is, refers to the demerge as being there all along, since it is timeless. The other has not yet come refers to the divine child / pineal light as a thing created during the creation process, being produced in the human brain and able to only be there for the duration of the life of a person who attains it. Hence, it is only lives for a time in the brain until the person dies physically. Again, we have reference to the beast as something that was and is now not, as a continual of the previous statement, which highlights its short lifespan in the brain and the lack of light before its rebirth. So the beast is within. It's not out there. It's here. Within all of us. I'll say it again. The other has not yet come refers to the divine child / pineal light. So these references to the pineal gland is also a reference to the divine child as a thing created during the creation process, being produced in the human brain and able to only be there for the duration of the life of a person who attains it. So once someone passes away, it's not there. Hence, it only lives for a time in the brain until the person dies physically. Again, we have reference to the beast as something that was and now not. In other words, someone who has ascended, as a continuation of the previous statement, which highlights a short lifespan in the brain and the lack of the light before its rebirth. This sentence then states that the beast is an eighth king. Looking at the seven kingdoms, we can see that the pineal light will be the eighth item in the sequence of seven, finished by the human being that then generates the eighth issue of the kingdoms as the savior or beast, depending on how we look at it. Finally, the passage states that the beast belongs to the seven kingdoms, since it is their creator and product simultaneously, and that is going to its destruction as the great serpent creative realm that is overcome by the individual. As it emerges, the light polarizes the undefiled ocean of chaos, that is the scalar field dash abyss in brackets, and generates a cosmic expansion slash contraction that makes galaxies with solar systems that make minerals and life as the developing vegetable and animal planetary kingdom to make the diamond the human level is reached. It's the beginning and end of manifestation, the alpha and the omega. The image below compares the cosmic cycle with a galaxy. I don't know if you can see this. It's going to be hard, but this is kind of, he shows this at the bottom of the page here and how a galaxy is somewhat created. Okay. The cosmic development and refinement process from galactic center to its creator in the human psyche is represented all over the world as Axis Mundi, including at Angkor Wat, that's Angkor Wat, W-A-T, a major temple to this creative process. This explains the Hindu version of the cosmic cycle as a great cosmic circle. The APEP in the Egyptian myths, known as the Horus Boreas, that encircles the entire process. The great turtle comes out of the sea to lay its eggs on a beach, the mound of creation, the offspring of which all return to the sea. The same process that characterize the creation story. Matter is fourfold in that it separates out into four states known as solids, liquids, gases, and plasma. The atomic structure is based on three. The four elephants represent the galactic material foundation and content. On their backs then rests the galactic disk world many have misinterpreted as the flat Earth. This is an application to the Earth is only valid in terms of the dialectic plane effluvian from Earth's equatorial region, since the tree of life is a cosmic blueprint and can be applied to every level of creation, from the galaxy proper to its solar system, planets, creatures, and brains. As the center of the disk world is Mount Meru, M-E-R-U, as Axis Mundi at the top, which is the self-realization and light. So he shows here where people, this is a drawing long ago, or artwork, but it's symbolic. Again, this is what people forget. It's symbolic. It's a turtle who is holding up the whole world. Okay, it's showing you that, but it's a symbolic region, and so they think people were stupid back then. But it's not stupid, you see. And then to the left, he's talking about how what we call the place that's in Cambodia called Angkor Wat, a major temple there. He talks about it being as it's the whole body, I think it's like I want to say 200 acres, but it may not be that. Maybe smaller than that. I may be larger than that, I should say. Is a galaxy, and then the light is of the four um, cone-shaped type of steeple type things shaping there is in the middle is the what we call the light and the brain. You see, and then the four around it is the creation. And then around that, you have another square that has, guess what? Represents creatures, creator, I should say. And then the last part, it's like a yard, it's done this way, is symbolizing a lot here. And the last part simply is being the planet and the solar system being the utmost, all of it. So there are basically what I see here are four squares. I'm sorry, there are three squares. One representing the solar system. The next square is the planet. And in the next square where the five towers are located is the creators. And then at the top, the highest tower is the brain. And in the very top, representing the light. The numerical cascade of numbers known as Pascal's triangle in college mathematics shows us the development of kingdoms from the singular source at the top, as well as the cellular growth of a human being, the microcosm of the macrocosm. All of creation is contained within its mountains, as the human embryo traces the path of evolution. And he gives illustration from the top being a galaxy, to a star, to a planet, to a creature, to brain. And lower, again, it drops down to energy, representing atomic, mineral, and life and light. And in information comparison, you compare proportion, measure, and understanding. You have a point, a line, a surface, a volume, hypervolume. Then you have the seed, you have the stem, you have the leaf, you have the bud, and then you have the seed again, and then you have the clay, and then it's made of, then it makes bricks, then it makes a pyramid, makes a capstone, and it produces a diamond. Since by this rationale, the human being contains the entire animal kingdom within it, atoms of every kind must appear on the arc in twos, denoting the duality of physical reality, from electrical polarity to the sexual duality of plants and creatures, right through the dual lobes of the human brain. Everything about the physical world is dual. But when unification occurs, they are all unified on a single boat, lifted by the flood within. As a result, the flood of Noah in Genesis is most likely a description of the expansion of spiritual consciousness out into the void that illuminates the pineal gland and leaves the ark glowing at the top of God's mountain, explaining using a coded story. Of course, there are many flood myths from around the world, normally interpreted as literal global flood. However, when researchers and scholars look for evidence of such a monumental total flood, no direct evidence is found to suggest any all-consuming event ever occurred. The melting of the ice caps, ending the last ice age 12,000 years ago, and minor localizing flooding are major depending on how you look at it. It is accounted for, but none of them can account for a vast global catastrophe, the likes of which is thought to be the Great Flood of Noah or Atlantis. It may have become obvious to the reader by now, but the story of Noah sending a dove out to find the mount of creation emerging from the watery chaos is a story of establishment of the emerge as the creator. It is the emerge that is the truth of creation, standing on solid ground you can build on. Coming from finding the singular truth itself, it rises as the mount of creation in the watery ocean of space as a seed that generates life from the chaotic ocean itself, the cosmic cycle. In terms of an earthly global flood, it would have to be catastrophic and wipe out practically all life. if there is but one mound to start life on after it, as suggested by taking the Noah story literally. In contrast, there's plenty of evidence for the pineal expansion of spirit that generates the ocean of chaos or abyss when we read the accounts in this regard. For instance, in the Hindu tradition concerning the same great flood, we also find reference to the mountain of God in association with a great boat. Lord Vishnu, in his Mastora, I'll spell it M-A-T, Masal, fish avatar, ordered the virtuous king Manu to construct a huge boat with animal and plant specimens on all forms to escape the great deluge. And finally, when the waters receded, the great boat was found atop the Malada Mountains. This is, again, just another story. It's under the entry of Wikipedia on Noah. The Great Deluge in the Hindu account has precisely the same reference as the Noah story, since it talks of a boat containing all the animals and plant life found on earth, built to survive a great deluge. The receding waters leaves the boat in the same situation as Noah's Ark, on a mountain. The mountaintop is exactly where you would find the great boat, or bark, since it is the top of the human nervous system. We also find a dove in Noah's story in the alchemy concept of the chemical wedding. After Noah sent a dove out 3 times because God is thrice great, it returns with an olive branch in its beak, telling Noah, dry land has appeared. The land in this story has the same meaning as the pineal mount of creation, described in the myth of Heliopolis. The Ascension/creation event is being described. Interesting, there are boats buried around the Great Pyramid to suggest their importance in association with the pyramid as the Mount of Creation. These boats were used ceremoniously by ruling pharaohs to sail along the Nile River towards the Great Pyramid in commemoration of approaching the mountain of God, and mimic the nature of sailing in the ocean as a point-like fish. Giza used to be surrounded by water, making the pyramid plateau an island, and turned the Great Pyramid into a primal mount of creation rising from the waters of chaos in the infinite ocean of space. In the Babylonian epic of creation called Enuma Elish went on high, that's in brackets, the 7 tablets of which record a battle in heaven between Marduk, son of Inca, and Tamu, identified as a glistering female. It's thought of by scholars to have been used in rituals and ceremonies that mark the Babylonian New Year. For obvious reasons, when we read and interpret them, a simple look at Wikipedia reference to Tiamat and Enuma Elish reveals some startling correlation with the cosmic and galactic cycles of creation already described in the chapter. The Wikipedia entry on Tiamat specifies for us exactly what Tiamat is. In the religion of ancient Babylon, Tiamat is the cosmos, is a primordial goddess of the salt sea abyss, mating with Abzu, A-B-Z-U, the god of freshwater, light, meaning in brackets, waters of life, to produce younger gods in the cosmos. We have that picture here of him showing this story here of salt water and Abzus being the fresh water. And you'll see that, again, there is a woman in white with a child, young boy. She is a symbol of chaos, a primordial creation. Depicted as a woman, she represents the beauty of the feminine. Depicted as the glistering one, it is suggested that there are 2 parts to the Tiamat myths. The first, in which Tiamat is a creator goddess through a sacred marriage between salt and fresh water, peacefully creating the cosmos through successive generations. Tiamat is also considered the monstrous embodiment of primordial chaos. Some sources identify her with images of a sea serpent or dragon. This specification is necessary simply because numerous scholars or researchers misinterpret Babylonian myth. Tiamat is commonly presented as being a planet that exists in our solar system that was smashed by invading body or blown apart by extraterrestrials in a cosmic war. In fact, Tiamat is the cosmic energy. She is feminine, being the material which with which all things are fashioned into being by the cosmic/galactic DNA. Her son, he is the waters of life equals fresh water, and she is the cosmos of light, the open sea, which is full of salt. The light here called Abzus, A-B-S-Z-U, is effectively mating with her as her lover to produce the infused material that generates the cosmos, ultimately leading to the establishment of humanoid gods within its womb. The Wikipedia reference to Tiamat further states that Tiamat was the shining personification of salt water who roared and spoke in the chaos of original creation. She and Abzut filled the cosmic abyss with the primitive waters. Amma Habir, who form all things. So this is UMMU-HUBER, who form all things. Sorry about butchering these words. I don't know much Arabic. Filling the cosmic abyss with primal waters is a direct reference to the infinite pulse generated from you in Ascension when the underworld ocean of chaos is produced at a great flood in the book of Genesis. Tiamat possessed the tablet of destinies, and in the primordial battle she gave them to King Yu, the deity she had chosen as her lover and the leader of her host, and who was also one of her children. The deities gather in Terra, but as Anu, replaced later first by Enlil, Enlil, and in the later versions that had survived after the first dynasty of Babylon by Marduk, the son of Enki, first extracting a promise that he would be reverent as king of the gods, overcame her armed with the arrows of the winds, radiation and oscillation, a net, meaning cosmic cycle, a club, power to generate a certain material, and an invincible spear, axis, A-X-I-S, and the Lord stood upon Tiamat's hinder parts, and with his merciless club he smashed her skull. He cut through the channels of her blood, and he made the north winds bear it away into secret places. Slicing Tiamat in half, polarizing the ocean of chaos, he made from her ribs the vault of heaven and earth, cosmos. Her weeping eyes became the source of the Tigris and the Euphrates, polarized again. Her tail became the Milky Way, that is spiral arms with the approval of the elder deities. He took from King Yu the tablets of destinies, installing himself as the head of the Babylonian pantheon. King Yu was captured and later was slain. His red blood mixed with the red clay of the earth would make the body of humankind. Tiamat is being spoken of as one who roared and spoke in the chaos of original creation, since it is her material that is being organized by Apsu. Her lover here is referred to as King Yu, another name of the demerge associated with a person who is also the leader of her host and her child. The only identity that fits all the three issues in the creative light, the title, Anut, is being used as well, since the merge has many names associated with various aspects, such as being not only a product, but creator. It thus has different names and association depending on whether it is becoming, as in the hero story, or already established timelessly as the creator. As Anut, now the singular creator uses 4 identifications of arrows of the winds, a net, a club, and an invincible spear. These 4 objects are all aspects of polarized systems that have a fourfold nature. The arrows of winds may be taken as radiation and effigies in the cosmos from galactic centers. The net is the cosmos cast out into primeval ocean, as it is to catch fish and souls. The cosmos as its own field is being alluded to, but is also applicable to galaxies. The club is really the right arm of the light as it protrudes towards us when we see it, and is associated with dominion, just as Vishnu. in its completion carries 4 items, one of which is a club of dominion over the ability to generate physical material from the ocean. The sphere is invincible because it is the axis of polarization, which has 0 dimensions, but exists by an inference, since the cosmos has an invincible polarity. Smashing Tibet with a club generates the influence from a great ocean as the cosmic cycle with its galaxy spirals. Splitting her in 2 is telling us about polarizing the ocean of energy from its subtle and scalar potential condition. Her weeping rivers stretch out as the galactic spiral arms when applied to the confines of the cosmos. King Yu is then established as the achievement of success and completion, but is slain as a lamb is slain, since King Yu is now on another name referring to the Son of God, or cosmic DNA, generating humanity from clay. The conch shell is the Vishnu's upper left hand, producing the sound Om, the primitive sound of creation produced in the ocean. The cosmos is the effigy in the cosmic ocean, and as such has a sound or noise. The discus symbolizing unification. The lotus flower is ascension, as glorious existence and liberation from the physical cycle. The mace represents physical and mental strength we would conceptually need at the creators of material forms. Notice Vishnu's colors are blue, red, and yellow, the same as gunas, or aspects of being in alchemy. His mace is gold because it represents the dominion of light as the creator over energy, and the light is often depicted more directly with the color gold from its association with the sun. I'll show you that picture here with Vishnu. I'm sure most people have seen that. In the Innumo Elish, we hear about how Marduk, son of Enki, became king of the gods in the same way as of Zeus or Anu. The Wikipedia entry on this is also very telling and repeats what we have just established concerning Tiamat. The epic Enuma Elish names 2 primitive gods, Apsu, APSU, for Abzus, ABZU, who represents fresh water, and Tiamat representing oceanic water. The several other gods are created. Ea and his brothers who reside in Tiamat's vast body. They make so much noise that the babble or noise annoys Tiamat and Apsus greatly. Apsus wishes to kill the young gods, but Tiamat disagrees. The vizier Mummu agrees with Apsus' plan to destroy them. Tiamat, in order to stop this from occurring, warns Enki/Eek, the most powerful of the gods. Eek uses magic to put Apsus into a coma, then kills him and shuts Mummu out. Inca then becomes the chief god, marries Dakino, who has a son, Marduk, greater still than Inca himself. Marduk is given wind to play with, and he uses the wind to make dust storms and tornadoes. This disrupts Tiamat's great body and causes the gods still residing inside her to be unable to sleep. Here's the same story of generation in the abyss, leading to the completion and reproduction of the original creator, who creates winds and tornadoes. That is, he's speaking of galaxies, causing noise or movement. Things are happening as if upsetting the peace of the abyss, disrupting Tiamat's cosmic body. Entry then says, the gods persuade Tiamat to take revenge for the death of her husband, Apsu. Her power grows, and some of the gods join her. She creates 11 monsters, and I won't go into all these monsters. Well, I guess I should. Venomous snake, a great dragon, exalted serpent, furious snake, the hairy one, the big weather beast, the mad lion, the scorpion man, the violent storms, the fish man, the bull man, to help her win the battle and elevate King Yu, her new husband, to supreme dominion. A lengthy description of the other gods' inability to deal with the threat follows. Marduk offers to save the gods if he appointed as their leader and allowed to remain so even after the threat passes. When the gods agree to Marduk's conditions, he is selected as their champion against Tamet and becomes very powerful. Marduk challenges Tamet to combat and destroy her. He then rips her corpses into two hot halves, with which he fashions the earth and the skies. Marduk then creates the calendar, organizes the planets and the stars, and regulates the moon, the sun, and the weather. The 11 names listed are all associated with the kings of the gods, or the Tammuz. The number 11 can be thought of as their new tree of life sprouting or growing from the completed tree of 10 points, as in the case when the cosmic cycle begins anew. King Yu, elevated to prime position because he is the establishment of the creator, like Horus in the Egyptian myth Helios. Helopus. He has completed the cycle and looped back to perfection, just as Ra was worried to have his dominion overthrown by the protection of Horus, so King Yu is overthrown by Marduk, who becomes king of the gods and rips Tamet's body in half, or polarizes the cosmic ocean to create the calendar and regulate the sun, moon, and stars, etc., as created of the cosmic cycle within the ocean of the abyss. Just as these are the 7 tablets, so there are 7 hermetic principles that make it at first glance seem as though they have nothing to do with each other. Comparing the principles with the standard model of galactic development in the form of kingdoms, we can start the principles with the human level relating to the psyche that reproduces its creator. The first principle is mentalism, that which is behind the creator. The second principle is correspondence between creator and product in the sense. Then vibration or sound in the primordial ocean produces polarity. Solar systems and planetary life are rhythmically creating a cause and effect system that generates gender. The spiritual union is when our bodies become a phallus, ejaculation us as spirit when we are reborn from a mental effort generating the great flood. Likewise, in the book of Genesis, we have the 7 days of creation that at first glance sounds fanciful and outdated. However, a closer examination of the text of creation reveals the same scheme of kingdoms we find in process theory. The issue for Christians in this particular case is that they only read the books of the Old Testament in English, and in so doing miss the deeper Hebrew recordings when it says God as Elohim in the first verse of Genesis is referring to God twice, thrice great, which involves the light of illumination as the creator or fourth issue. The first letter of the text of Genesis is said to contain the secret of the universe if you don't understand it from seeing the first letter B, meaning house, inside 0/outside infinite. In brackets. It is repeated as the first word of 6 letters, that is the 6 kingdoms from the creator. Again, the same thing is represented in more detail at the first verse of 28 letters, complete cycle, and more so as the first chapter. It is the same thing repeated 4 times in ever expanding detail. The first letter of Genesis is the letter B, which means house, in the sense of being inside as opposed to outside. In the text, then, it is taken as saying in. The next letter is R, which means head. The normal translation in English of these first 2 letters is in the head of, or in the beginning. However, a closer look at each letter in the first words gives us that is in B, the head, R in the Alpha and Omega, and A, the crown, S of God, I in completion, and T. Okay. The first word may also be taken to say created 6 or created a thorn. All these readings are highly significant and appropriate since the crown of illumination completes creation. The first letter being again B, as in boy, refers to the distinction between a inside and outside, which is precisely what we have in a physical reality, an infinite space on the outside and singular definition on the inside. Fundamentally, we may take these 2 extremes as the 2 most fundamental issues of dimensions, that is heaven or monad, and the bottomless ocean called the abyss, in which the only manifest issues are the cosmos and the light. Monad and its infinite expanse are extreme opposites. Focusing on the abyss, initially, the text of Genesis is giving away what happens in Ascension to the experiencer, whose sight goes blind and black just before expanding out of the generation of the abyss. Then they turn around to see the light in the void, because the text then says, "Let there be light." And the text says, "Let there be a vault between the waters to separate the waters," that is cosmos, from water, the abyss. In the NIV, there is then a divide between the waters above, the abyss, and those below, cosmos, as a development system of dense matter. Then dry land appears at the planetary level. So we have gone from cosmos to galaxy to stars to planets, as we go from energy to atoms to minerals and up to vegetables. It becomes obvious now the kingdoms are being referred to in a certain way. It may be confusing to the reader to learn that the next creation involves lights in the vault of the sky, and let them serve as signs to mark sacred times, etc., as if the kingdoms had been abandoned. Yet, when we consider the next kingdoms is the development of the psyche of a creature, we can see the emphasis is placed on the nature of projecting the psyche onto the nature's world or natural world around it to mark out its characteristics with other references. So I'm going to show you this here. So at the top here are 7 kingdoms. And at the start is rest. And as it goes down from the left-hand side, it's producing upside down triangle, so to speak. Let there be light, which is quantized energy. Waters divided, which is stellar, which is the first product. The next product at the bottom is the planet. And then we have vegetation, which is the crops. Then we have the psyche, which is the signs in heavens. And then we have the creatures, which is sea and land. And the very top on the right-hand side is the human. It is the psyche that emphasizes in this case that becomes the creatures and humans of earth. Let us make man in our own image. It's not specifically a reference to aliens creating humans. It is telling us about the nature of the human as the microcosm of the macrocosmic cosmos and its creative light, Brahman, that is the cosmic man from God thrice great. The final day of rest records the nature of completing the great work of creation, and that we find absolute rest in God when we complete it. And that's revealing it, you see. Every aspect of these stories is relatable to the real galactic and psychic condition we find in ourselves as spirits in a material world. That's a song by the Police, if you remember that. We are spirits in the material world. Looking for completion by returning to our origins to complete a cycle or a loop of time that defines our total being. Many versions of this sequence have existed and have been noticed by modern researchers, but they never seem to be able to complete the kingdoms by realizing they relate back to themselves in a closed loop, as we can see from the examples below. So what it is here is showing light, and then the kingdom at the top, power and image at the very top. And then the number 1 is light, and then the power is potential. And then the finally is what we call point. And the nuclear is what we call the second one with the binding. And then you have the arrow, which produces the line. The third one is atomic, or identity or form, produces a circle. Molecule becomes what we call a combination or separation, and there are 2 circles. The 5th one is plant, which is growth or organization and reproduction. And it becomes a chain. The 6th is animal, which becomes mobility. And then what it becomes is a chain with the side chains. And man is the last, which is dominion. It has the ability to be free and walking and thinking. The kingdom of reality contained within the cosmos cycle are being recorded throughout the ancient world and strongly suggest, of course, that our ancestors were not simpletons, as seems from the archaeological remains and the mediocrity with which they are interpreted. There are also many ancient anomalies, objects, and depreciation around the world that have yet to be deciphered. Some appear to support the contention that there was a global catastrophe that destroyed our ability to understand what is left behind. At the Atacama Desert, Atacama Desert in Chile, for instance, is a bizarre-looking giant anthropomorphic figure. The oldest known from prehistory, carved into the desert floor, measuring nearly 400 feet in height. It shows three groups of 4 spikes coming out of its head, relating to the unification of the 12 cranial nerves and completion of the zodiac in a square configuration, as if to mimic the beams emerging from the cloud of light in the head. The square denotes not only the square-shaped cloud, but the gaining a measure. The figure holds what looks like a long stick of some kind, or a club, maybe even a trumpet, or horn stretching out to the right. When compared with the pineal cloud, 2 frontal beams that protrude towards you, it seems like an obvious match for the beam that extends to the right and gets fatter as it does, before splitting out into smaller channels at the end. This correlation suggests the figure is an anthropomorphic representation of either a god or Brahman. In Babylon, a god was called Anunnaki, since it means princess of Anuk on earth. The title is 4 words glued together as a title. And A-N and A-U, A-N-U is the father of life in the galaxy, referring to the creator, as in the Num as Anu. When you recreate that creator, you are elevated above it in spirit. For the rest of your mortal life, you are a god, that is a small g, O-D, or child/prince of Anu or Anui. The word Nun is embedded in the title and means fish and prince. You are a fish when born in spirit from water to become the cosmos, looking as a creator, and a prince that becomes a king when returned to the body. You are on earth, which is the non-ki, K-I of the title, Anunnaki. Then is not an alien, it's an illuminated spiritual being. And that concludes the chapter here, chapter 5. A long chapter indeed. Hope that you guys can understand what this is all about. This is something that's new to me. Only in the last probably month or month and a half I've been reading, and I wanted to share this information to you on today, actually on Labor Day. I don't have to work, and I wanted to share this with you because I feel it's important. I believe that Phil has done a lot of research, and he has had the event in his life called Ascension. And he can document that because simply he is one who has done it. And I don't know of anybody else that has done that or has been able to correlate this and put it into words or a book to help those out here who are still searching for the truth. So I appreciate you being here. I appreciate you watching this video. I hope that this will help you on your spiritual journey. Obviously, this is a lot of it's new for you, especially most of us, because most of us were taught the story of Noah, the story of creation. All these things in a literal sense. And they're not meant to be in a literal sense. That's the key. And so there's one here, someone I've spoken to a couple of times, and I wanted to share this, and we'll continue to do this book. A lot of these things also have what we call stories. there are stories being told here. And we know that even rhymes, nursery rhymes, have stories to reveal truth also. And unfortunately, we think that's just for the child. And unfortunately, adults forget those stories, which are revealing something deeper. Okay, so thank you for your attention. I appreciate you being here. And hopefully, you have a great day. You take care.